Okay, welcome back. It's been a little while, so the latex we poured into the negative mold has dried, and we should be able to pull it right out and see it's all clean. Okay, one last thing that we needed to do that we didn't do last week. A secret to getting ultra thin edges on your foam latex prosthetic is to drill a foam escape hole into your positive. We do that at the part on the positive where the prosthetic is going to be thickest, which it looks like right in here, just above the right eye. Here we go. There we are. So, there you are. Alright, so we have our hole, and we're ready to go. The first thing we use is we do a mold release. This is called stearic acid. It is a water-based mold release. It's used in some shampoos. Get all over the whole thing because you're going to have some overspill of liquid latex when you put these together. Have to do the same thing to the negative. On the negative, you want to try to get it a little bit thinner so you don't wipe out all of your texture. And get it on the outside too. So, just like that, we've got the inside of that. Now, when this dries, we're going to be scraping most of the excess out. Now, you will need to get a triple beam balance. So, first thing we do is we're going to zero out the weight of the bowl. The trick is we have to make sure that this thing is balanced at zero. So since this bowl is particularly too heavy for this counterweight, we're going to cheat a little bit by putting a little weight on, just on the end here. Okay, there are 4 parts to most of the foam latex products on the market today. We have the latex base, foaming agent, curing agent, and we have the all-important gelling agent. Now, the basic procedure for using foam latex is we'll mix these 3 ingredients together: the base, the foaming agent, the curing agent. We will whip it up to about 4 volumes, that's maybe 3 volumes of air, 1 volume of latex. We will pour it, we will add the gelling agent, and then we will pour it into the mold and put the 2 mold halves together. The foaming is what we need to get with foam. That's why foam latex is called foam, is because it has all this air in it. We get the air into it by whipping it up, and the gelling agent, what that does is it gels the foam latex and gels the foam with the air in it. And if you didn't add this, then after 15 to 20 minutes, the latex would start to revert back to its original shape, which would mean it would all the foam would collapse and you'd end up with just a mess. So what we're going to need to do is find a happy medium of where we will foam up our chemicals, add the gelling agent, pour it into the mold, and then it should be allowed to gel in the shape that you have. The gelling agent, the time it takes the foam latex to gel is the critical thing that we are working on. If it gels up too fast, it will gel in the bowl and you have to start all over again. If it gels too slow, then the foam will collapse in the mold and you wasted all your time and effort that way. So there's a window of opportunity that you have between the time that you turn the mixer off and the time that you get these molds put together and clamped together and fold and put into the oven that we need to work towards. Usually between 5 and 15 minutes is the window that we're looking for. That window is affected by a number of different factors: how much gelling agent you have, the total size of your batch, the amount of humidity you have in the air, and most importantly is the temperature. Because of all of these factors, I highly recommend that you start a log. Include today's date and, all importantly, the temperature, which in here is 70 degrees. I have written down 70 degrees. We're going to be using 150 grams of the base, 30 grams of the foaming agent, 15 grams of the curing agent, and 10 grams of the gelling agent. When you have enough, when you've done this enough times and you recorded it down, you can get a pretty good handle on what you need to do to change it. Now, it's 70 degrees at this location, but if you're shooting it sometime in the hot summer when it's 80 degrees, you're going to need to know how to change this formula. At 80 degrees, this gelling agent will act maybe 2 times stronger, 3 times, 4 times stronger. You're going to need to estimate that so you minimize the amount of wasted time and wasted materials. So that said, let's start adding our chemicals together. Okay, make sure this is shaken up real well. Set our scale to 150. Yeah, it's within a gram. So, next thing is 30 grams of foaming agent. 150 plus 30 is 180. And 15 grams of curing agent. 15 plus 180 is 195. There we are. So this is our concoction. Now the gelling agent we don't want to add now, so we'll need to mix that, pour that off into a separate container. There it goes. By this time, the release agent has pretty much gelled, or dried. So we'll take our handy dandy chip brush and just clean off the extra. Here, if you can get some of that release agent down into the hole, that will save you some trouble later on. That's about all you really need to do, because this is the positive. You won't see this. The negative is a different story. And you can get in there and brush out all your extra stuff. So, get the bowl centered down there real good. Lower it down in. Now for my notes, I'm going to start off this initial test batch by whipping for 4 minutes, and we will try to see how many volumes that will give us. So we start by whipping up. We can use the highest speed setting. So I will set my old watch here and let her rip. And you can see at this point we have whipped up foam latex. But if you can notice real closely here, I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, you see these large bubbles in there that are not going to be good for us. So we need to spend some time and refine the foam. Okay, now that we've done with the whipping stage, we need to spend some time and refine the foam. This will do two things. It will make the bubbles of air that are in the foam now smaller, and it will drive off more of the ammonia, which is in the latex that is used as a preservative. The ammonia will inhibit the gelling agent, so we'll work on that too. Start the timer, and away it goes. Also, I don't know if you can hear me, now is the time, if you want to, you can add a little bit of coloring to the latex. If you can get that latex down to close to the color that you're going to be using for your makeup, it's a little easier to cover. And right now I'm using just some airbrush makeup. So if we get down in here, you can see how this works. A couple of drops is all it takes. Okay, coming up on 4 minutes. 3, 2, 1. Okay, at this point, we have a batch of foam that should look creamy and smooth, like this. Now the critical thing we're going to do now, for timing, we're going to be adding the gelling agent. Once the gelling agent is added, the clock is ticking, and you're racing against the clock to get this stuff mixed in and put into the mold before the gelling actually occurs. There are two schools of thought here. One is to start the clock after the last bit of mixing has done. I've always started the clock as soon as the gelling agent is added. It seemed to make more sense to me. So we will be doing this at speed 1. Have our gelling agent right here ready to go, and then we'll turn the clock on. What we'll be doing is we'll be mixing 2 minutes with the bowl going in one direction, and then 1 minute. We're mixing 1 minute with the bowl going in one direction, and then 1 minute with the bowl going the other direction. This ensures a proper, thorough mix, and hopefully everything will work out. So here we go. Added gelling agent. Added. Clock started. 1 minute will go in one direction. And then 1 minute going in the forward direction. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. A couple of schools of thought here. You can either pour it in or brush it in. I usually do a combination of both. What the trick is in here is to move the foam around and not trap air bubbles underneath. You don't air bubbles underneath the foam. We don't want to flop it down very vigorously, and we do not want to stir it. We just want to apply a gentle pressure. Okay, now the critical part. Like that. Ta-da. Okay. If you can see that foam escape hole, you'll see the foam coming out of there. Wiggle it around. Get it in there. And then don't be afraid to put a lot of pressure on that to make sure to ensure a nice thin edge. Now we still have, it hasn't gelled up yet, so which is fine. Now, what you can do at this point is clean off some of the excess foam. And that, my friends, is ready to go into the oven. We're going to be using a temperature of 200 degrees. And I'm going to guesstimate, given the thickness and weight of this mold, for about 2.5 hours. Now, very carefully. That's the way. Chisel very gently. Remember, it's hot. All right. There is our prosthetic. So now, starting at the edges, start peeling that off. Oh, this is going to be good. 2.5 hours for this worked real well. The thing is, you want to take out the prosthetic when the mold is still hot. If you wait till it gets cold, the prosthetic will want to stick in there like crazy, and they're much harder to get out. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is your foam latex prosthetic. Pretty good. And again, if you look at this really closely, you have extremely thin edges, which will blend in perfectly. And where's the piece here? There is your finished foam latex prosthetic. Ta-da!